Hey sixth graders, I've got another video here for you. This time I'm going to walk you through creating a city street with buildings. The videos that came before this about 1 point perspective were all considered practice and demonstrations. And this is a demonstration too, but this also counts as a final artwork for you. So for this one, we need to treat it a little bit more seriously than the practice drawings. All the practice drawings that I've seen, though, were really cool, and I could tell that there was a lot of effort put into them. So thank you for that. I'm going to go ahead and get started, and I just want you to go through some of these steps with me, and then there's going to be options for you as far as how you can make this your own, okay? First step is to create a horizon line. The horizon line needs to be parallel with the bottom of the paper. That means it's completely horizontal. Also for this, I would recommend having the horizon line towards the bottom, but not all the way to the bottom. And you could put it up a little bit higher than this. I mean, there's lots of options, but I think that down here in this area is going to work well for you, okay? And then you need a vanishing point. Again, you have options of where you put that vanishing point. It's going to change what the picture looks like a little bit, but for this, I'm going to put it over here. It's like maybe a quarter of the way over this side. Then I'm going to create a large box, rectangular box shape right here. That's going to be the closest building in this picture. Okay, please notice that the sides of this box shape are parallel with the side of the paper, this one and that one, and the bottom and the top are parallel with the top and bottom of the paper. I've also erased extra lines that I don't need anymore, and it's a good idea to draw lightly so that you can erase more easily, okay? Now from these corners, you need lines that go back to the vanishing point. Okay, right now, this looks like one gigantic rectangular form going way back into the picture. Remember, the way 1 point perspective works and linear perspective is as things move further away from you in the picture, they appear to get smaller, and that's what this is showing us. It gets so far away that it appears to disappear, and that's why that's called the vanishing point. We're going to separate this big form into multiple forms that are going to be buildings. And to do that, I'm going to have lines that go completely vertical to separate the buildings. So I'm going to put a back edge of each building. So I'm going to start with this main building right here, and then I'm going to find the back edge of it. And then I'm going to find the front edge of the new building, and then the back edge of that building, and then the new front edge of the new building, and it's just going to go back and back and back, okay? Okay, so now this represents one building. This line is completely vertical and parallel with these other lines. For the most part, every single line that you do in here will either go completely straight up and down, which is vertical, completely across, side to side, which is horizontal, or go back to the vanishing point. So it's one of those three directions for the most part. Now I'm going to find the front edge of the new building, the building next to it. So there's going to be a little bit of an alley sort of thing between the two buildings. So now, this is one building. This is another building that we can see the side of. but we can only see a little bit of the front from our perspective. So it's like this little sliver piece represents this front side, but for that building. So just like this front building has a big rectangle for the front of it, for this face that we're seeing in front, we need a little sliver of this side to show, and so that's going to be a rectangle. So I'm just going to go like this and like that. Okay, and so the way that you're supposed to be seeing this is one building, two buildings, but I can't see all of this side that exists behind here because this front building is blocking it. There's an overlapping happening. From our perspective, we're seeing the front building and then all the buildings that go behind it, but we're just seeing the side of those buildings for the most part, and a little bit of this front face. So now I'm going to make these more buildings, okay? And as I go back, I got to realize that the spacing is probably going to get skinnier and skinnier. So this space is wide, but then the next one, if the building is relatively, a similar size, then it's going to appear to be skinnier because it's further away. Okay, so what we're seeing is a long line of rectangular forms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I basically did a wide space and then a skinny space. A wide space, skinny space, wide space, skinny space. But they all got a little bit thinner and skinnier as I go back. So the wide spaces got skinnier compared to the ones in front, and the skinnier slices got even skinnier compared to the one in front. Okay, all the way back here where I didn't even add a space between, because I just figured it was so far away that I would start to not be able to see that. And then I decided that that would be the last building, and then I would just erase this little bit. Okay, so now there's a little bit left to do on each of these spaces to make them look like they're separate from each other, but just in a line. So they're all in a line together, but they're separate things. So I need to show that. Right now it still doesn't quite look like that. All I really need to do on each one of these, I need to have a little line that goes straight across. Okay, and then erase. Then do the same thing on the bottom. While I'm doing this, I just want to mention that it's really important to try to keep your lines clean and clear and easy to understand what's happening, because as lines get really close together and you have really skinny small spots with lots of lines in them, it can get confusing if those lines are not clear. When you go way far back, our vision wouldn't be able to see some of those differences anyways, so we don't need to show them super clearly, but we don't need it to be messy either, okay? Okay, so now they look like they're separate forms, but we need to individualize them, because most likely you're not going to see a street where every single building is exactly the same. There's no windows, there's no doors, there's no features that make them different. So we're going to try to find ways to make them different, okay? I think what I'm going to do to make them different to start with is I'm going to change the height of this building right here. So, the buildings are probably not all going to be the same exact height. This line will probably be pretty consistent across because, all these buildings are kind of like on a sidewalk and they're all in a line together and on the same line of sitting on the ground. But then the height is what is going to change a little bit. So on this first building right here, I'm going to change the height. And so I'm going to erase. I know I drew this line and I went to all this effort but I'm going to change it. I'm going to make that building shorter than these other ones around it, just because. And so all I really need to do is I need to take my ruler again, and I need to decide how high it's going to be. And then that line that shows the height of the building, I'm going to line it up with the vanishing point, and then where I want to put my new line for the building, the top of the building. And so I'm going to just put it right there. I just make that decision. It could be lower, higher, but it does need to swing with where the vanishing point is. Okay, so that's the new height of that building. So there's some things that I need to do. Okay, so I'm going to erase this line, have the new corner come over, erase this line, and now I should be able to see more of this building that's behind it. If this one's going to stay as tall as it is right now, I should be able to see more of this side of it. So I'm simply going to, and if I need to, I can use my ruler. Just because I erased that chunk right there, now I can see this on the next building. You know, I did something here that I think I'm going to change just a little bit. And it's not really a big deal. It's not technically wrong. But when lines from different objects converge and kind of follow the same path or create multiple points in the same area, it tends to get confusing what's happening, like what line belongs with what. So again, it's not technically wrong, and this could exist in the real world, this perspective that we're seeing where the height of this line right here is the same as this one right here. But I don't want that in a drawing all the time, so I'm going to just change it slightly. I'm going to make this building, this next building, just a hair taller. And that'll be good anyways, because it's good to have variety. So like, you know, this is one height, this is a little bit shorter, this is a little bit higher. It's all good. So I just made those lines a little bit longer. Now I need to make a new line right here. There's lots of erasing involved, so hopefully you're drawing lightly until you get the lines that you actually want to keep in the right spots. And then the new top of that building is going to be right there. Lined up with the vanishing point, by the way, right there. And now the new corner will extend over to show us part of the front side of that. It's not really the front of the building, it's the side of the building, but it's the front from our perspective. See, now I think that looks better. It's less confusing that way. Where this was before, it was just right in line with that, and it just made it a little bit confusing. But now, it makes a little bit more sense. You guys can see all my eraser marks. Again, another plug for drawing lightly. I'm not drawing super lightly. I'm doing it so that you can see my drawing more clearly on the screen, but you should draw lightly, okay? So 3 buildings that are a little bit different from each other, but they follow a line at the bottom, but their heights are a little bit different, okay? On this next building, I'm going to make another change. I am going to add another level onto it. Okay, so just like the first step of creating this building was to create a rectangle on the side that's facing us, like this, I need to do that over here too. I can't see all of this area because it's hidden behind this building right here, but I can imagine what is back there. This part of the building I can see, and I know that this line would extend over. I just can't see it. It's hidden behind these other buildings. But I'm going to pretend that there's another level rising up on top of this one. It's going to be a little bit of a smaller level, so it'll be skinnier like that, but it'll go up higher. It'll just extend that building up higher. So I'm pretending that I know where it is, and I'm making a new rectangle. Okay, so I'm seeing one side of it. Now I need to see this side of it. And this side will have lines that lead down towards the vanishing point. This is starting to get to be a really steep angle, but that's okay. That's how we see things a lot of times when they're angled away from us. And I'm working on this building right here, right? This is the building that I'm adding onto with this level. So this level comes down and it attaches to this building. So I just need to make sure that the back edge doesn't go wider out, like way over here or something. It needs to appear to sit on top of this building, okay? So I think I'm going to put the line right there and go straight up. I need to extend this line longer. Didn't make it long enough. That's okay. I can redo that. These ones are getting pretty small back here because they're so far away. I think I'm going to leave those alone. I feel like, you know, I've kind of done a fairly good job of showing some differences between about 4 of the buildings. I could make differences with these ones too, and that's a choice that you can make. And you can make other choices with these ones too. Like this is a practice and a demonstration, but you're going to take this artwork in your own direction a little bit, as long as you pay attention to the rules of one-point perspective. That's what you're trying to do. I could make these buildings taller, shorter, could have made them wider, you know, like really long, could have made them skinnier, all kinds of things, okay? Now we need to add a street, okay, and a sidewalk. And we're going to go ahead and pretend that this street is following along the line of the buildings, which would be fairly normal. And so that means we're going to use the vanishing point we're going to put a sidewalk in here. We got to think about the size of the buildings when we're doing sizes of other things. You know, think about how wide sidewalks really are compared to large buildings and how wide streets are. Just got to try to do your best job guessing with the size relationships of things. You know, how big should the street be? How wide should it look compared to the buildings? That kind of stuff. So this is going to be a line for the sidewalk. It's going to be a little bit away from the buildings. It's going to line up with a vanishing point, and I can just angle it how I want. That would be an extremely wide sidewalk, which is possible. This is going to be a little bit of a more skinny sidewalk, or more normal sized sidewalk. So I'll just make that line. Okay, and then there's a curb. So it goes across, you actually walk on this space. And then there's a curb that steps down into the road. So you need to show a little skinny line. It's going to be very, very close to that first line. It's also lined up with the vanishing point. And as it goes back, they converge together. They look like they get really, really, really close, okay? That's normal. If you want to take this a step further, which you totally can, sidewalks have lines. You know, the pavers, the people who made the sidewalks, they have lines in them. So those lines would go straight across like this, completely horizontal, just like the bottom of the building right here. I can decide how those go. That adds a little bit of realism to it, I think. And so these lines go straight across, completely horizontal, and they're all parallel with each other. They're not going to be like this, which I know is the tendency for a lot of us. They're not going to be like this. I see this kind of thing a lot, where you're trying to make it be sort of a right angle with one of these lines. It's not like that, okay? It's not, you wouldn't put your lines like this at a right angle with these lines. It goes across horizontally with the bottom of the paper, because this sidewalk is laying flat, tilted away from us on the ground. I think sidewalks have lines that comes down from those little marks too. And those go straight down. Okay? Now we can show a road. Show how wide this road goes. This dot represents kind of our position as the viewer of this scene. So, you know, it kind of looks like we are in the middle of this road. So, this other side of the road is sort of going to be like a triangle like that, you know what I mean? Like it's not gonna be like that so much, I don't think. It's gonna be triangle like that. There's a special name for that kind of triangle. I can't remember what it is. But these two angles are equal. Okay? So I'm going to make another line over here. Okay, it's pretty much the same thing that I did here, right? I got 1, 2, 3, the bottom of the buildings, and then 1, 2, 3. Same thing. So this side would also have lines like this. I can use the lines that I did previously. Buildings that you want to draw over here will be done with the same process that you drew these buildings with. I'm not going to spend time doing that over here. Instead, I'm going to focus on showing you different ways that you can create details for these buildings over here, okay? Let's start with some windows. I'm doing the windows in groups. I'm not just doing a single window right here. It's going to be a big grid of windows. So I indicated first the one side of the group of windows and then the other side of the group of windows on both sides of this side of the building. And these lines are straight up and down. Then I'm going to indicate the top of this group of windows by drawing a line there that leads directly to the vanishing point. And then I'm going to indicate the bottom of that row of windows and then the next row using the vanishing point all the way through. Okay, the bottom and top of those windows, those lines of windows, all go to the vanishing point. So it appears to turn like the hand of a clock. So I do groups of windows because it helps me to make the sides of the windows be in line with each other. I could leave them like that. That would be perfectly fine. And remember, the thickness gets smaller as things go further back into the picture. I'm not going to leave it like this though. I'm just going to decide to erase the middle. Have it just be two windows on either side. Again, I drew them in a group because it helps me to make them in line with each other. Both, you know, the bottom and the tops and the sides of the windows. So I can do different kinds of windows for all of those buildings as well. They would appear to get smaller most likely as they move back. They can be in different arrangements and different patterns. They can be different sizes. They can, you know, some can be taller and skinnier. It depends on, you know, whatever architectural details went into this building. There's going to be differences, and that's okay. You can also do little details that are different too, like moldings and the trim that maybe goes around windows. The style of window, you know, is it going to be a sliding window? Like, does it slide to the side or does it slide up and down? Is it just a solid window? Does it have drapes and curtains inside of it? Can you see little details of what's inside the room there? Those are kinds of details that you can think about and that I want you to think about for your artwork. But the process of finding the shape is the same for all of these buildings. Two straight up and down lines, and 2 lines that go to the vanishing point for each and every window. Okay, and then you can change things about it. You know, this might not make sense to do this, but I can just show you a small change that you can make. You know, you can round out, and it can be more of an arched window. You know, and then I could shave off those corners. I could do that for different ones. There's different details that you can add. For windows that maybe go on this side of the building, it's going to be just rectangles. It's not going to be like these. These represent rectangles that are tilted away from us. I'm going to draw some windows over here, okay? Okay, there's my windows on that side. You can probably notice that they're not all the same size. If I were to do this project, like you're going to be doing this project, I would really want to try and make sure that my spacing is really close to the same on all of them, because that's just how buildings would typically work. You know, you're not typically on a building side like this, you wouldn't see windows of all different sizes. They'd be a little bit more uniform, most likely. So I would probably want to change that and adjust that a little bit, but I'm not going to take the time to do that. I'm just going to move forward with my demonstration, okay? I'm going to do a door now on this side. You know, maybe this is a business, but then there's offices or something up there, or apartments or something. Then I'm going to put a door here. A door pretty much the same as a window. 2 straight up and down lines, and then a line that goes to the vanishing point. I can make it more detailed. Maybe make it look like it's a sliding door. Okay. There's more I can do to this building for sure. And I might in this demonstration. But I'm going to move over to this building, and I'm going to do like a little canopy thing over the front of the building that overhangs. So to do that, I'm going to make a front shape, just like we did with the front of this building, that sticks out from the front of the building. I want to think about the height of my doors that I've indicated right here. So the other ones are going to be similar, right? If you're going to put doors in these, which would be normal, they're going to be following this line. They'll get smaller and smaller and smaller, but they'll follow that same general line. So, you know, the canopy thing, is that the right word? We'll go above it a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to have a shape stick out from that line. I'm going to zoom in here a little bit. And this shape, I could do a rectangular shape if I want to. I could do triangle type shape if I want to. Maybe I could do a curved canopy type shape. There's lots of different options, okay? I mean, those probably aren't the only ones. I think I'm going to go with the triangle. So this triangle represents the front-facing piece that's closest to us, the viewers of the scene. Just like this is the side of the building that's closest to us, that's facing us. This is facing us. And now the rest of it is going to be angled away and leading towards the vanishing point. So I'm going to go from these 2 corners, leads directly to that vanishing point. Extend that out a little bit. You'll have to draw over lines that you've already drawn. That's normal. And then this top one too. Okay, and then that line stops where the edge of the building stops. Or it could be shorter, potentially. It could be shorter. but it's not going to be longer. And then you match this line and copy a new one right there. And now that looks like that's overhanging. And I can put a door in that building if I want to. Again, maybe it's another business. The top goes to the vanishing point. Okay, what I'm also going to show you is the idea of bricks, okay? To give the surface of a building more detail. And that's going to be done with lines, mostly, that go to the vanishing point, if it's on this side of a building. I'm going to use this building right here to do it. I'm going to do bricks above the canopy thing. And I'll just show you how that works, okay? It's a good idea to have a nice sharp pencil for this part, because these lines are going to be really close together. Okay, right now we could actually leave it like that. I mean, those don't look like bricks, but it looks like siding, and that would be perhaps normal as well. Can also use this to put windows in this space. I'll just use the lines that already exist now to make my windows. It'd probably be normal to see other windows on that building face, but I'm not going to spend the time doing that. I'm going to focus on the bricks. I just wanted to show you that windows can go into those same spots. I'm going to separate the bricks, and bricks can be different sizes potentially. I'm going to move down to the road now and add the dividing line that goes right there, okay? Basically, it's two lines that are very, very close together. Even at their widest point, they're really close together, and they go directly to the vanishing point. And now I'm going to divide it up to make it a dashed line like you see a lot of times in roads, okay? Even though not all roads have a dashed line, but that's what I'm going to show. I'm going to add one more thing. It's going to be in addition to this building right here. I'm just trying to show you that there's lots of different options and lots of different ways that you can make your city street different because of all the things that you can add to it. So I'm going to add another level that's slightly wider than this one. I'll show you how I do that. There's a couple of ways that I could go about achieving this, but I'm going to go with the way that I think will be a little bit more straightforward and easy for you guys to understand. So I'm going to put a little rectangle that's hovering above this side right here. So notice how the rectangle is skinny. It's hovering above the side. It goes over the edge of this side. It's a little bit wider than it. Okay, that's what I want. Now from these corners, I'm going to have lines that go down to the vanishing point. I'm only going to extend them down far enough to suit my needs. I'm not going to go all the way, but it does need to aim right there. I'm going to do the same thing with this corner. It's going to be a short line though. Now I just need to do this back edge. One line straight across, one line straight up. So I'm just trying to show you what I did here. I'm making this platform, this top of this building, appear to be wider than this. That's what I was trying to do. And I did that by making this first wider and then extending that out so that I can see the bottom piece of that platform that's sitting on top of this building. It also goes out wider further than the corner of the back edge, which makes it look like it goes further back a little bit. I'm done with the demonstration portion of doing the 1-point perspective in this drawing. I'm showing you the different ways to use 1-point perspective, but I want to remind you that the ways that I've shown you are not the only ways that you can use 1-point perspective. I've got windows, I've got doors, I've got these overhang things, I've got unique details. You can add those things in here in lots of different ways. You have to use your imagination about where they could go, what they're going to look like. There's just a few rules that you have to follow. You have to try to understand which lines go straight back to the vanishing point. If you can do that, then you've got half of this figured out. We also need to realize which lines go straight up and down, and have them all go truly straight up and down. Not tilted off to the side, this way or that way, but truly vertical and parallel with each other. And then lastly, which lines are supposed to go completely horizontal and not have them be tilted this way or that way, but completely horizontal and parallel with other things. Then we need to pay attention to the neatness and the quality so that things don't get confusing. And we need to erase lines that don't belong. So that can be a little bit tricky sometimes. But you need to look through and see which lines are actually supposed to stay here and which lines am I supposed to erase. You have to think about that a little bit. I'm going to spend the rest of the time of this video just doing some further decorating of this picture to show you how you can develop it. I'm not going to finish it because that would take me too long, but I'm going to show you different parts and developing different parts. That doesn't mean that I want you to stop where I stop. I want you to finish the entire picture and make it unique, make it different from mine, while still making sure that you're trying to obey the rules of 1-point perspective. Part of the goal of linear perspective and 1-point perspective that you're doing right now is to create objects that look three-dimensional. Shading is also really helpful for that, and it's best to use both the 1-point perspective and shading together. Right now I'm going through and I'm adding shading and details in the hopes of boosting this illusion that these objects are three-dimensional. Some of the places to add shading are logical if you think about it. You just got to think about where the sun is and where it's shining, and what areas are unable to get as much of the sun as other areas. So the alley, for instance, the underside of windows, those areas are going to have shading. As an example for you, I'm showing you some of the areas that I would add detail to and shading to, but I'm not finishing the picture. I'm just trying to inspire you and give you some examples of ways that you can add details and shading to your picture. I want you to think about the full space of the picture when you're creating your artwork, and make sure that you're bringing every spot of the artwork to the same finished level of quality. I know I've already said this, but there's a lot more choices that you have for details and shading and forms that you add to your buildings than what I've shown you here. The options are really limitless. One thing you guys can go do is you can look at other buildings to see the details that exist in buildings, and you can look on the internet at buildings and see how they're different from each other. Alright, I'm going to call this video done. Good luck, you guys.